by Lifebuoy,
Palm, Rub, संसार के नंबर 1 सेलिंग जर्म प्रोटेक्सन सोप ब्रान्ड.
Associate Sponsor
एभरेस्ट ब्याङ्क, दिगो, दरिलो र विश्वासिलो.
पेप्सोडेन्ट, एउटा मुस्कानले सबै बदलिन्छ.
यहाँलाई स्वागत छ दिस मर्निङ लाइभमा. म समीर र अब हिमालय खबर सकिसकेको छ र आज हाम्रो गेस्ट आइसक्नु भएको छ. अघि नै भनिसकेको थियो डाक्टर रुथ सफिरो हामीसँग हुनुहुन्छ. उहाँ विदेशबाट आउनु भएको छ र उहाँले धेरै राम्रो काम गर्नको लागि नेपाल आउनुभएको छ र आज हामी उहाँसँग उहाँ किन आउनुभयो, उहाँले के गर्नुहुन्छ, यावत कुराहरू हामीहरू गर्छौँ. बट बिफोर वी इन्ट्रोड्युस रुथ at the studio, we have a introduction video. We hope will kind of clarify who she is in a bit more detail. Let's have a look. उहाँको भिडियो एक्चुअली हेरिहालौँ.
डाक्टर रुथ सपिरो सेन्टर फर एसियन फिलान्थ्रोपी एन्ड सोसाइटीका सहसंस्थापक तथा प्रमुख कार्यकारी हुनुहुन्छ. हार्वर्ड विश्वविद्यालय तथा जर्ज वाशिङटन विश्वविद्यालयबाट स्नातकोत्तर तथा स्टानफोर्ड विश्वविद्यालयबाट विद्यावारिधि गरेकी डाक्टर रुथले एसिया बिजनेस काउन्सिलको स्थापना गर्दै कार्यकारी निर्देशकका रूपमा 10 वर्ष जिम्मेवारी सम्हाल्नु भएको छ. व्यावसायिक करियरको प्रारम्भमा अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय विकासको क्षेत्रमा काम गरेकी डाक्टर रुथ सन् 2018 मा प्रकाशित पुस्तक प्राग्मेटिक फिलान्थ्रोपी एसियन च्यारिटी एक्सप्लेन्डका लेखक हुनुहुन्छ. त्यसबाहेक केही पुस्तक सम्पादन तथा सहलेखन गरेकी डाक्टर रुथका कैयन लेख प्रकाशित छन्. तिनै डाक्टर रुथ सपिरो हाम्रो अतिथि हुनुहुन्छ.
हाम्रो अतिथि आइसक्नु भएको छ. Let us welcome Ruth. Dr. Ruth, if I may call you Ruth.
Of course.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Samir.
It's a pleasure having you here, and I mean, I've heard a lot about you, as have many people, I'm sure, are among our audience. What brings you to Nepal this time?
Well, we have the great fortune to be able to work with the Chaudhry Group and the Chaudhry Foundation. And our organization, the Center for Asian Philanthropy and Society, which is a mouthful, but the acronym is nice, CAPS.
CAPS. Let's go with CAPS.
Let's go with CAPS. We work on all the ways in which private resources do good in Asia. So we work on philanthropy, CSR, impact investing, all the ways that private money can be brought to bear on helping communities.
Okay.
And we are based in Hong Kong, but we work in 18 Asian economies, so 16 countries plus Hong Kong and Taiwan. Nepal is one of them.
Okay, so Nepal is one of the 16
Nepal
countries.
is one of them.
Okay.
So we do certain work here.
Okay.
And for many years, the Chaudhry family has been saying, why don't you bring your network to Nepal? It is in fact the best country. It is the most beautiful country.
Right.
And now this is the time that we're doing it. So we're bringing philanthropists from around Asia to Nepal to talk about the work that they do with each other, to share what they do, and to also see what's happening here and interact with the Chaudhry Foundation and the Chaudhry
So there'll be others also here in Nepal as part of this visit? Or?
Right. From mainland China, from Taiwan, from Hong Kong, from the Philippines, from India, from around the region.
Okay. So you're here at the invitation of the Chaudhry Group, Chaudhry Foundation, or?
Well, yes. They've been saying for years, why don't you have your conference here? And so this was the time. We've had it in other places.
Fantastic. I mean, it's amazing that you're here. I mean, someone of your stature, we see your education. I mean, it goes from Harvard, Stanford, you know. It's amazing education, and now you're using that education, you're using your experience even to help Nepal, it looks like.
Well, I think I caught some of the some of the background that you gave from. I actually call myself a born-again capitalist.
Ah, okay.
And why is that?
Okay.
Because I do think that the private sector can be constructive agents for change. They can help in communities.
Okay.
And I know that Nepal gets a lot of foreign aid and donations, but when you have companies that employ people, also do good with their products and services, it's a pretty sustainable model where you're not reliant on handouts, right?
Of course.
Now, of course, Nepal does rely on those donors and
Quite a bit, yeah.
quite a bit. But what we really try to focus in is how companies and wealthy business people can do good.
Okay.
So one of the things that really differentiates Asia from the West is that in Asia, including in Nepal, 85% of all companies, small, medium, and large, are family dominated, which means that the distinction between the owner's personal philanthropy and the company's CSR, or corporate social responsibility, is not so apparent as it might be in the United States. In Asia, it's more or less one and the same. So those kind of business leaders are looking for opportunities to do good in the community, but they're also looking to help their companies thrive.
I see.
And actually, I think that that's okay if you can find those win-win types of solutions.
Right. Now, this brings me back to the topic of philanthropy, right? I mean, we're revolving around philanthropy also as we're discussing this. I know in the West, philanthropy is a very important part of any business. The CSR is connected to philanthropy, right? You are focused on philanthropy and promoting philanthropy because the business needs to do that.
Right.
In your definition or in your mindset, what is the true definition of philanthropy from a business point of view?
Well,
is it just money?
No.
Okay.
Well, first of all, philanthropy has historically been voluntary.
Yes.
Right? Increasingly, that's somewhat not the case, because increasingly there are societal expectations that when someone becomes wealthy, they should give back. And in the United States, which you brought up, for a long time, Bill Gates did not do any philanthropy, and then he had somewhat of an epiphany, and now he devotes his entire life to the Gates Foundation.
Right.
And his philanthropy. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, he didn't do it. But now in the United States, when you become wealthy, it's really the expectation is that you will start to do good.
Okay.
In Asia, actually, because the needs of the community have always been there is more of a sense of giving back, of helping your community, of being engaged. And so that, there was not as much of a need for an epiphany, so to speak, because people are immersed in the communities. And for us, one of the things that's important is, if you think about Asia, Korea, Japan, Singapore, and Taiwan are developed economies. The rest of Asia, including good portions of China and India, are still emerging markets.
Right.
Which means there's plenty of need at home, so to speak. Even though many big companies are multinational, like the Chaudhry Group is multinational, but they devote their philanthropy and their CSR to India primarily because there's needs, I mean, to Nepal, not to India, to Nepal, because there is needs here.
Of course.
And you can say, you know, the Tata Group in India, most of the philanthropy of the Tata Trust is in India.
Of course.
Right? So that kind of mindset of I'm connected to this community, I'm connected to this country, that's true in the Philippines, in Indonesia, and in China. And so a lot of people look for, are engaged at the local level. Just
want to ask, like, you're here now in Nepal. You get to, you love Nepal. We know that from from everything we've heard so far, and your work. I see that Chaudhry Group Foundation is doing a lot of CSR and a lot of philanthropy. It's amazing. It's very, we're thankful to them for doing this. But is Nepal, overall, Nepali business community, is it doing enough philanthropy from overall, when you think about it, or is there more that could be done in terms of CSR, in terms of philanthropy, from your perspective? Not to blame anyone, but just an overall picture.
Well, I wouldn't say that I have a really kind of molecular understanding of Nepalese businesses. What I know is that there are ways to do good and do well.
Right.
And let me give you one of my favorite examples. In China, well, in China, everything that happens is big. The population is big, the country is big, they do things in a big way. So there is an energy company that operates in Ningxia province.
Okay.
Ningxia is a dry, arid, it's the Tibetan plateau.
Oh, okay. Western China.
Yeah. And they wanted to create a solar farm,
Oh.
right? Solar farms are happening all over the place, right? But this company realized that if they put those solar panels a little bit higher off the ground, condensation would form under the solar panels, and crops would grow that wouldn't grow ordinarily in Ningxia province.
Ah, okay.
And they discovered that the best crop that grew under those solar panels in that place were goji berries.
Ah.
Now, you are a public health
Yes,
expert.
yes,
You
yes.
know goji berries are a superfood. We should all be eating more goji berries.
For immunity, basically, yeah.
Yeah. So they planted goji berries under the panels.
Oh, wow.
And what happened? That company employs 80,000 people to take care of the solar panels, to take care of the goji berry plants underneath. And for those 80,000 people, their livelihood, they have tripled their income.
Wow.
Right? So that is a kind of a great example of win-win-win. Win for the company, they're
Right.
having people take care of their solar farm.
All right.
Win for the community, win for the country.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Yeah.
In terms of, so for Nepal, so you think we're ready? Is Nepal as a country ready for an expanded level of philanthropy, CSR, apart from what we're already doing?
I think that one of the reasons, there are many reasons why I do, in fact, love Nepal. And everyone talks about the extraordinary, natural beauty of the country.
Of course, that's there.
That is great, but the people are also really great. Nepalese people are among the most wonderful, hospitable, lovely people in the world, right? But they're also very creative. So there's a number of creative industries that are coming up,
Yes.
right? And of course, hospitality and tourism. So I think that there had been a mindset that I will get rich first and then I will become philanthropic.
That's a generous, that's how I would also think about this, philanthropy. First you get rich and then start supporting. But is that not the approach?
I think that when you're starting a company, if you integrate thinking about how this company, whether it's the products, whether it's the service, who are you employing, right? There was a company I visited a few years ago that the Chaudhry Foundation helped to start, and it was a company that made school uniforms. I don't remember the name.
Okay, fair enough.
But it was a company that made school uniforms. Okay, fine. Does that give back? A company that makes school uniforms? Maybe not. But all the people that work there, the founder and all the women seamstresses, were people who were affected seriously by the earthquake and by conflict.
Right.
So the people that they hired were women who were widows and who needed financial security.
Right.
So then the company is a social enterprise, right?
Right.
Of course, everyone needs school uniforms. They
Right.
want to be a profitable company.
Right.
But the people that they're hiring. So it doesn't. So the way that doing good piece gets integrated into the company, that can vary.
Of course.
Right?
Right.
So there's people who work on finding more renewable sources for packaging and for
Right, of course. So you're helping in a different way altogether, although it's integrated into the good work in the business, but you're also supporting, that's where philanthropy is also coming in.
Right.
I mean, indirectly also.
Well, this notion that these are not completely demarcated, right?
They're connected.
Yeah. So I think that what really has happened in the past 30 years or so, Samir, is it used to be you gave your money away to nonprofit organizations or you invested and make money in for-profit. And that area in the middle of those two has really grown, where you're using business acumen, business skills, sometimes even the use of profit to do good.
Right.
And in that, I think Nepal, especially younger people in Nepal, have great opportunities to think out of the box about how they're going to set up what they're doing and how they're going to integrate these different things.
We will take this conversation forward. It's time for a break,
Yeah.
but we'll come back to you. अहिले एउटा छोटो ब्रेक भन्छौँ हामी डाक्टर रुथ सफिरोसँग कुरा गरिरहेको छौँ अहिले छोटो ब्रेक त्यसपछि फेरि उहाँसँग हामी फिर्ता आउँछौँ
Advanced heroism मलाई बनाउँछ भित्रैबाट अन्य प्रकारमा पनि उपलब्ध छ
त्यसैले लाइफ बोय स्ट्रङ यसले दिन्छ कीटाणुहरूबाट 100% स्ट्रङ्गर सुरक्षा
जम्सबाट बच्न अब पाउनुहोस् 100 ग्रामको लाइफ बोय साबुन मात्र रु 45 मा
तपाईको फेभरेट सनसिल्क स्याम्पू अब भयो अझै राम्रो यसमा छ vitamins, oils अनि प्रोटिनको एक्टिभ मिक्स जसले दिन्छ तपाईलाई शाइनी, घना अनि सुन्दर कपाल सुपर कपाल हरेक बार नयाँ सनसिल्क एक्टिभ मिक्सको साथ अब सनसिल्क कन्डिसनरमा पनि उपलब्ध छ
हिजो गरेको जोहोले आजको जीवन सुखद हुन्छ थोरै नै किन नहोस् बचत गर्ने बानी बसालौं एभरेस्ट बैंक दिगो दरिलो र विश्वासिलो थोपा थोपा पानीले विशाल सागर बन्छ थोरै नै किन नहोस् बचत गर्ने बानी बसालौं एभरेस्ट बैंक दिगो दरिलो र विश्वासिलो
प्रस्तुत छ प्याराशुट एडभान्स्ड बेबी रेन्ज जसमा छ भर्जिन कोकोनट ओइल यसले शिशुको कोमल स्किनलाई सफा गरी पोषण दिन्छ प्याराशुट एडभान्स्ड बेबी तपाईको बेबीको ग्रोथ पार्टनर
जम्सबाट बच्न अब पाउनुहोस् 100 ग्रामको लाइफ बोय साबुन मात्र रु 45 मा
This Morning Live brought to you by Lifebuoy,
Palm, Rub, Chew. संसारकै नम्बर 1 सेलिङ जम्प प्रोटेक्सन सोप ब्रान्ड
associate sponsor
एभरेस्ट बैंक दिगो दरिलो र विश्वासिलो
Start with the caps.
Pepsodent, एउटा मुस्कानले सबै बदलिन्छ
यहाँलाई फेरि पनि स्वागत छ दिस मर्निङ लाइभमा म समीर र आज हामीसँग आज विशेष अतिथि हुनुहुन्छ वी हेभ डाक्टर रुथ सफिरो visiting Nepal to continue to do her good deeds and good jobs that she's been doing elsewhere also in Asia. And Ruth, so coming back to our conversation.
Sure.
We're discussing philanthropy, the importance of philanthropy, importance of CSR. Now, at the very onset of the program, we discussed that you're connected with CAPS.
Right.
I won't even go to the full form, so we can go to that. But so what we know what CAPS does to an extent at the beginning, but can you tell us a little bit more about what CAPS does and what this objective of CAPS is?
Absolutely, I can, and thank you for that question. I know that it sounds kind of funny coming from me. I'm obviously not from Asia originally.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
I do have a white face, but I've spent my entire academic and professional career really focused on this part of the world, and I love this part of the world. And it became very clear to me that the way that philanthropy and CSR and businesses in general interact in Asia is different than the United States. And the United States is long held up as the leader when it comes to philanthropy, and it is. In fact, people say the rule of thumb is that philanthropic support in the United States is equivalent to 2% of the GDP of the country. Okay. So it's a fair amount of money that goes toward philanthropy. We don't know how much it is in a lot of Asian countries because it's not, you don't have to report on it, so people don't know exactly. But the American model has been kind of held up as the best in class or best practice.
That's what we hear. Yes,
right.
Yeah.
But in the United States, if people know about American history, America was created by people running away for a better future from other places. It's a nation of immigrants.
Of course,
right?
of course it is.
Right? So those people came to the United States saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to build my life, and I'm trying to get away from government.
Land of dreams, so as to say.
Right. And even for Democrats, very sad Democrats like me, you don't look to the government as your solution provider.
Right.
But in Asia, it's much more normal for people to say, I have a problem, I don't have enough of an economic livelihood for me, for my children, the schools aren't good enough. And I automatically look to the government as who can help me.
Okay.
Right? So one of the very big differences in Asia is that philanthropists tend to work in sync with government, not contrary and not apart from government.
I see.
Right? And as I said earlier, most of these philanthropists are also in business, right? So they don't want to be in an antagonistic relationship. So I can give you an example from India. When Narendra Modi became prime minister, he created a Swachh Bharat initiative on sanitation.
Okay.
I don't know if that's...
Swachh Bharat, yeah.
Is that a similar word in Nepal?
Swachh is clean.
Clean, right?
Clean, yeah.
It was really to build toilet facilities. Right. And when he did that, all the philanthropists, whether they have their private fund or they're through their company, went out and built toilets.
Okay.
Because people want to work aligned with government. After the earthquake here, that's when the Chaudhrys really stepped up their philanthropy because the government needed it and the country needed it, right? So one key difference in Asia is that willingness to kind of partner with government really from the beginning. And I am a fan of that. Why? Because no matter how much philanthropy there is, even if you're Bill Gates, it's not enough to solve all the problems. Government money is much bigger than philanthropic money.
Always is,
right?
Yeah.
So what does the philanthropist bring? They bring ideas, they bring innovation, they bring that business thinking.
Goodwill.
Goodwill, but they also can pilot new projects. Philanthropy is the risk capital. They can try new ideas, right?
True.
And the hope is that government will then pick up that intervention and roll it out across the country.
Correct.
Right? So if you have government kind of at the table as part of the group from the beginning, it increases the likelihood that whatever that changes becomes part of government policy. So in Asia, it's easier to scale in that way. Right? That's one major difference. Another major difference is, as I said, because there's very little distinction between CSR and philanthropy from many families, they can also use their company, like Baofeng, like the example I gave you in China. Right. But I would say there's a third, and that is in a place like Nepal. When you look at a lot of American foundations and European foundations, they say, okay, here's the problem I want to solve for. I want to solve for climate change. I want to solve for the lack of vaccines. I want to solve for after-school youth being at risk, whatever it is. In Asia, you almost never hear of the problem first. You hear of the community. This is the community I want to help, right? That is known now as design thinking. Because you're putting the people you want to help, the community you want to help, that is the center. The way you help them can be varied. Right? So you go into a community and you say, what do you need? You need a clinic, you need a school, So when again, I do know the Chaudhry Foundation, but they're not the only ones. I know, Yeti Airlines and Dwarika Hotels do a lot of work.
They do.
Yeah. But it's a community focus. Like, what does the community need? How can we help the community? So I do love that about Asia, because it's that people piece first. And I think it's a real strength.
So that's where CAPS comes in, and through CAPS you're promoting this thought process, is what I'm understanding.
Yeah, sorry, I got away from
that's fine. Because that background is very important to know.
Well, it's also to say, okay, well, if we have different methodologies, different strategies in this part of the world, we need to really understand what they are and what works.
Okay.
So CAPS is primarily a research organization.
Right, okay.
We do advisory, we do convening, but we primarily do research. And we do research to say, okay, what do we know about the models in this region? What do we know about? One of the first studies we did was on scholarships. Why? Because as soon as you have a little bit of money, that is where you go. That is what you help to build a scholarship.
Of course.
Right. And in fact, I sometimes say that scholarships are like the gateway drug to philanthropy. It's the first thing you do, and then you're in.
Right.
Because then you start doing it, and you realize you've changed the lives of the children, of the young people who get that scholarship, and it's somewhat of an addictive, good feeling that allows you to do more.
Right.
So we do the research. We also do policy research.
That's what I was going to ask you. So you do policy research and recommendations.
Recommendations.
Right.
So, and in this regard, we do work in Nepal. So we have a study that comes out every 2 years called the Doing Good Index. Okay. And it's really the factors that enable or impede the giving and receiving of private social investment. Right. And we do it across the region. And it's quite a big study. So we actually poll, on average, every 2 years, more than 2,200, we call them social delivery organizations. Right. And why do we call them social delivery organizations? Nonprofit is not as true anymore. Many organizations have profitable income streams.
You need that.
And there can be social enterprise.
Yeah, of course.
And in many Asian countries, the word NGO doesn't work because in a lot of places, they are GOs. They are connected to the government. So we use the term social delivery organizations. Okay. So we poll 2,200 of them. The survey takes an hour to fill out. So for us to collect that much data, including more than 100, I think 110 or 120 responses from Nepal, we have very robust findings. Okay. And so we do the study every 2 years. It's on our website, and we can see which government policies, which regulations are helpful and which aren't.
Sorry, is it Asia only or is it global?
It's only Asia.
Only Asia. So because your CAPS is based in Asia, so focus on Asia.
Right. Okay. Although people have used our model and our questions, and to a certain extent, it's being replicated.
So is Nepal in this survey?
Nepal's in the survey.
So how did we perform?
There's room for improvement.
Okay. Okay.
In Nepal, Nepal, the government doesn't have that much money, right? So the tax benefits of giving money, making a charitable donation, are kind of negligible in Nepal, and they're very, very hard to understand. It's a complicated formula. But let me just say, the opposite end of the spectrum, in many ways, is Singapore. It's a little dangerous to look at Singapore because it's kind of got its act together in so many ways. Of course. And it's one city, state. Right. Singapore gives 250% subsidy for either an individual or corporation. So for every dollar that a Singaporean gives, they write off $2.50 from their taxable income.
Okay.
And one of the things that's really important here, and it goes back to a theme of our conversation, is people are going to give to those things that the government also cares about. They're going to give to education. They're going to give to healthcare. They're going to give to community development. Right. So when you incentivize them to give, it's not like the money is going out. It's not. It's staying here and doing work that's aligned with what the government priorities are as well. Okay. So there's room for improvement in Nepal.
I know we have to go to break very soon, but I had to put this question while I'm on topic. But doesn't the country's GDP and all that affect the index like you're doing? Because a poor country may not be able to have businesses that can do enough work as compared to a rich country, for example.
Well, yes, but our index is not measuring the absolute amount. It's measuring the how much incentives are aligned.
Okay.
Right? It's measuring the factors that enable giving.
Okay.
Not,
Okay.
Right?
Enablers.
Enablers.
Oh, I see. Okay. So I missed. Okay.
So no, I mean the two places that do best are Taiwan and Singapore, which are sophisticated economies, but Vietnam does better. There's a mixture.
Okay.
So we're just looking at the rules.
Okay.
And there's another piece that we're looking
Okay.
at in this index.
Right.
We look at how much the community embraces the notion of engagement.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
How much does it resonate with people? And what is the idea? And in Nepal, of course, everybody is engaged in the enterprise of helping their communities and helping their country.
Right.
So in that respect, Nepal does very well. It's natural for people to think about how to engage.
Right.
That's not true in every place.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
We'll take this conversation forward. We still have to talk about the book, which we haven't done yet. But for right now, we'll take a break. हामी एउटा छोटो ब्रेकमा जान्छौँ. ब्रेकपछि हाम्रो अतिथिलाई फेरि लिएर आउँछौँ. छोटो ब्रेक समय बाद.
हेर न आज पनि नयाँ लुगा तलब त निकै बढे जस्तो छ
तलब पनि पहिलाकै हो अनि लुगा पनि यो लुगा धोएको ऋण मात्र नयाँ हो नयाँ ऋणको ब्राइट लक टेक्नोलोजीले गर्दा लुगामा सधैँ नयाँ जस्तै चमक रहन्छ लुगामा नयाँ जस्तै चमक ल्याउन पैसा बढी हैन रोजाइ सही हुनुपर्छ नयाँ ऋणको ब्राइट लक टेक्नोलोजीले तपाईको लुगालाई दिन्छ नयाँ जस्तै चमक नयाँ ऋण अब ब्राइट लक टेक्नोलोजीको साथ नयाँ जस्तै चमक
Advanced heroism हिमालय बनाउँछ भित्रैबाट अन्य प्रकारमा पनि उपलब्ध छ
त्यसैले लाइफ बोय स्ट्रङ यसले दिन्छ कीटाणुहरूबाट 100% स्ट्रङ्गर सुरक्षा
जम्सबाट बच्न अब पाउनुहोस् 100 ग्रामको लाइफ बोय साबुन मात्र रु 45 मा
नयाँ प्याराशुट नेचुरल स्याम्पूलाई मेरो कपालले भन्छ यस यसको प्राकृतिक गुणहरूले कपाललाई राख्छ प्राकृतिक रूपमा सिल्की र बलियो प्याराशुट नेचुरल स्याम्पू केमिकललाई भनौँ नो नेचुरललाई भनौँ यस
ट्राई गर्नुहोस् नयाँ एन्टी ड्यान्ड्रफ स्याम्पू चायाबाट 100% सुरक्षाका लागि
This morning live brought to you by Lifebuoy
संसारकै नम्बर 1 सेलिङ जम्प प्रोटेक्सन सोप ब्रान्ड
Associate Sponsor
एभरेस्ट ब्याङ्क दिगो दरिलो र विश्वासिलो
पेप्सोडेन्ट एउटा मुस्कानले सबै बदलिन्छ
ब्रेकपछि यहाँलाई फेरि पनि स्वागत छ आज हाम्रो एकदम इम्पोर्टेन्ट र एकदम महत्त्वपूर्ण अतिथि हुनुहुन्छ नेपाल आइरहनु भएको छ अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय एक्सपर्ट पनि हुनुहुन्छ डाक्टर रुथ सफिरो उहाँसँग हामीहरू कुराकानी अब कन्टिन्यू गर्छौँ Ruth, so again, welcome back to the show after the break.
Thank you.
So we're discussing many things, and for me, at least, this whole concept of philanthropy and in the context of business, in the context of government, is very unique, and I find it very interesting from hearing from you.
Thank you.
Now, you did bring up this one topic of public-private partnership.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, in Nepal, from my perspective, from having run organization in health research, that the concept exists at the government level. PPP is very important. Public and private coming together, right?
Right.
But I don't always find it it's not applied very well. So what are your thoughts on public-private partnership?
Thank you. Well, it used to be in the past that PPPs were public-private partnerships were used for big infrastructure projects, right? You want to build a road, you get the private company to pay for it, but then they can derive the income from charging a toll or something like that. Increasingly, what we see are what we call public-private partnerships for social good, where companies and private foundations are working with government to do something, right? To do something that has social value. The reason why this is helpful is that it does need to be a partnership. Everybody in a partnership needs to have some skin in the game and and to bring their comparative advantages, their resources into the mix. And I would say that actually any type of collaboration is a big word it's a buzzword in my world right now. But whether it's a PPP, which is a collaboration between the private sector and the government, or a collaboration of funders or a collaboration of nonprofits, it's not enough, and I think what you mentioned was correct, Samir, it's not enough for us to say, oh, I like you, you like me, let's work together, and then that's it. And you need to really think through, what do you bring? What do I bring? What is the process by which we're going to work together? And what is the governance? So, like when a decision needs to be taken, who makes that decision? And how are we going to make it together? So we polled our network, and 85% of ultra-high net worth individuals say they see the opportunity and the likelihood of PPPs for social good increasing in the region. And let me give you an example of one of these. Zuellig Pharma is a pharmaceutical company. The Zuelligs were originally Swiss, but they made their start and they really built up their business in the Philippines. So it's pharmaceutical. They understand healthcare. But they also understood that they had business rigor. They had business thinking, right? And that the community health programs were not really delivering as efficiently and effectively as they could if they were run a little bit more like a business.
I see.
So what did Zuellig do? It goes into, at the provincial level and the municipal level in the Philippines, and it works with government leaders in those places to help them think about how to organize and manage their health delivery programs in a more business-like manner. So they build the capacity and provide training to the government on health to do a better job. And in the areas in which they're working, the health incomes the health indicators have gotten better, because better services are brought more effectively to the community through this partnership.
So if I understand this correctly, the trick is, I think, to have government ownership, in the sense that government needs to think that, okay, this is good, beneficial for the government also.
Right.
Is that always the case, though? You look at Asia, like, is it always the case? I mean, do all governments look at business in a partnership in the same way?
Well, Asia is a place where relationships matter and face matters. So the government is looking to get faced. They want their constituency to say, oh, it was because of the government that this clinic was built, or right, and so they put their name on everything. But if you bring the community people, the people in the community, they know, are our kids healthy? Are we getting sick less? Are we, the outcomes?
Right.
So if they think that the government is involved with that, the government gets credit. Sure. I think that there's credit, everybody should get credit when you're doing a good job. And that should be built in. It shouldn't be something to shy away from. Because you want to align incentives, and face and credit and reputation are part of the reasons that both government and sometimes companies do things, right?
Right.
So you take that and turn it into a way that works for the benefit of the community, rather than shake your finger and say, oh, this person's just doing it because he wants to enhance his reputation. Okay. But is that necessarily bad if it's also delivering an important service or product? So one of the reasons that CAPS exists and is really to kind of say, don't bring some unnecessary assumptions into the mix. If we can align incentives, then the project is more sustainable, right? So in a public-private partnership, historically, there was an exit strategy. Company made money. But in a public-private partnership for social good, theoretically there's no exit, and the company is not necessarily making money. So what do they get? Happier employees, for sure.
Of course.
Right? The license to operate in these communities, yes. Reputational rewards, but also they're also winning points with the government, which they want. And what does the government get? We're delivering better services and programs to the people.
Just before we go to another break, just another question. Like, what should government look for in a private entity that will give them confidence that working with this entity as in a public-private setting is going to benefit the government, or it's actually for a good cause, and there are no other hidden agendas and whatnot?
Well, I think they need to be upfront with what those agendas are.
Okay.
But you know, I want to just say, Samir, there's Asia, I mean, Nepal still has some monetary hurdles
of course,
to reach,
yeah, and,
right?
and that's where my question comes from.
This is a poor country,
right.
But Asia as a region is becoming wealthier.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many people come to me from outside the region and say, oh, I have this great idea. You know, if only I can get in front of that billionaire, then he would see how great my idea is, and he would fund me, and everything would be terrific.
Right.
That's not how it works. You need to really have a conversation. What's in it for that guy?
Yeah,
you know, right?
Yeah, of course.
Right? And what's in it for the government? It's not wrong for the government to want outcomes. Right? They have a role to play in delivering services and improving the lives of the people.
Right.
Many of them have to get reelected. Right? Okay. It's all right, but you need to have an honest conversation about how these different needs are being met, and then, only then, can you create a process and a governance structure that's sustainable and impactful.
That's very important, because coming from Nepal, you know, we always need to be very clear that government also doesn't always look at enterprises very favorably, although we would like them to. But what you're saying resonates well with what I was also thinking.
Well, and I would say in a country like Nepal, and I know we need to go to a break, a donor agency may not also has an agenda, and also, right? So you need to have that conversation with donor agencies
of course,
as
well.
Right.
No, I mean, there are agendas everywhere. So. But no, it's very, very good idea, suggestion from your side. Let's take a small break.
Okay.
Probably the last break before we go to the last half of the program, last quarter.
All right.
हामीहरू एउटा फेरि एउटा छोटो ब्रेक लिन्छौँ ब्रेक पछि हाम्रो गेस्टलाई फेरि फिर्ता लिएर आउँछौँ अहिले छोटो ब्रेक
एडभान्स हेयर ओइल दहसम्म बनाउँछ भित्रैबाट अन्य प्रकारमा पनि उपलब्ध छ
त्यसैले लाइफ बोय स्ट्रङ यसले दिन्छ कीटाणुहरूबाट 100% स्ट्रङ्गर सुरक्षा
जम्सबाट बच्न अब पाउनुहोस् 100 ग्रामको लाइफ बोय साबुन मात्र रु 45 मा
प्रस्तुत छ प्याराशुट एडभान्स्ड बेबी रेन्ज जसमा छ भर्जिन कोकोनट ओइल यसले शिशुको कोमल स्किनलाई सफा गरी पोषण दिन्छ प्याराशुट एडभान्स्ड बेबी तपाईको बेबीको ग्रोथ पार्टनर
This morning live brought to you by Lifebuoy
Farm Rub संसारकै नम्बर 1 सेलिङ जर्म प्रोटेक्सन सोप ब्रान्ड
Associate Sponsor
एभरेस्ट बैंक दिगो दरिलो र विश्वासिलो
Pepsodent एउटा मुस्कानले सबै बदलिन्छ
छोटो ब्रेक पछि यहाँलाई स्वागत छ दिस मर्निङ लाइभमा म समीर छु र मसँग हुनुहुन्छ आज हाम्रो महत्त्वपूर्ण अतिथि डाक्टर रुथ शपीरो लास्ट केही क्षण बाँकी छ हामीसँग कुरा गर्नलाई हामी उहाँसँग कुरा गरौँ रुथ सो as we come to the last quarter of the show and I mean I'm already learning a lot. It's very exciting.
Okay, thank you.
And I mean it's very new concept, not a new but a very unique concept for me. The paradigm of thought process kind of for me also is kind of shifted inside me. Now with CAPS.
Yeah.
I mean, you founded the organization. It's doing wonderful things in Asia. You know.
Right.
So what's the future? What do you would like to see in Asia? Let's just talk Asia first right now.
Right. Well, as I mentioned, and I think I can, as an American, I can say, we are living since the end of World War II, where the United States has been the hegemonic power, right?
Of course.
And a lot of concepts of development, of growth, come out of the American capitalist, consumer-driven world, that is the United States. And there's a lot of good things about it. But it's unsustainable from an environmental standpoint, we know that. So we need to be thinking about new models and new strategies, right? Now in Asia, the notion of harmony is in the DNA of this part of the world, right? And it's harmony between people and nature, absolutely.
Right.
The Chinese term is feng shui, right?
Feng shui.
It's harmony among people. And so there's a lot of kind of concepts that have been somewhat pushed to the back, where the world has embraced this kind of capitalist consumer. I'm not saying capitalism is bad. I'm a born-again capitalist, right? Making money, fine. Running businesses, fine. But we need to be thinking of new growth paradigms, right? And I think that Asia really has an opportunity to lead. And I think that we need to be thinking about ways to interact with the planet and the communities that are more sustainable.
Right.
And some of it goes back to the thinking that's been in this part of the world for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Not to say that we shouldn't innovate and develop new. You're working on scientific breakthroughs.
Right.
But you're using some plants that are, I think, there's Ayurvedic medicine is having this kind of day because a lot of it is being brought back. So I think that whatever the next chapter is, there is a kind of a growing awareness that the United States and some European countries they do not have a monopoly on solutions. And that creates an opportunity for this part of the world. What are some other ways of thinking? What are some other ways of doing? And maybe we must enter into a more sustainable, more equitable part of human existence than we have since the end of the World War.
Right.
So in that, I think Asia has an opportunity to lead, and that includes Nepal.
Absolutely.
It's the time that it's this kind of neo-colonial mindset that Asia is just the recipient of the West's largesse. Those days could and should be numbered to a certain extent, and we need to think about what are some models and strategies that come from this part of the world.
Does that hold true for Nepal also? As we move to LM, now we're low middle income country, we're moving towards that in 2030, I understand. So is that the same thought process?
Nepal has an opportunity to start from scratch, so to speak. So, look, one of the biggest polluters are buildings. Buildings emit a lot of carbon, actually, right? So if you're building new buildings, they should be green buildings from the beginning, right? If you're starting new enterprises, they should be incorporating these concepts from the beginning. So in some ways, Nepal has this opportunity to write a lot of its future history with new concepts and not following models that may not be helpful over the long term. So I'm very hopeful about Asia, and I am very hopeful about Nepal.
I hope CAPS continues to do its good job, and also now you're focusing on Nepal at this moment as we are here. So I hope you will give good ideas and suggestions to our business leaders and also whoever you meet here from government.
Well, we're having a conversation because, as we said, it's not me telling anybody what to do. It's just learning what's possible together.
Yes, the two-way.
Yeah.
Now, before we go, I just want to make sure that
that you plug my book.
Very few minutes, but we have a book. It's a very well-known book. Many of you might have even read it. Pragmatic Philanthropy, and I understand it's available on Amazon, free download also. Free download.
Yeah, I made it open source, so you can read it for free. Yeah.
Yes. So, can you, very briefly, what are you trying to? Besides what you already discussed here, what else are you saying in this book? Because you use the word pragmatic. I
think that because so many wealthy people in Asia are business people, they think more pragmatically, right? It's very American to say, I'm here to solve the world's biggest problems. That doesn't happen in Asia. Like, the mindset is more, what can I do? How can I use the resources, whether they be financial, whether they be technical, whether they be, the volunteers in my company, to do good.
Right.
So it's aligned with a lot of what we've been talking about, and in that book there are many, many examples.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for laying all out very well for us. I mean,
thank you.
You have been very
and thank you, the audience, for listening.
No, I mean we learned a lot, and for me, anyways, to understand this concept of a better PPP model, public-private partnership model, to understand philanthropy, how it could exist, as compared to how it exists right now, has been also another revelation for me. And thank you for coming to our show.
Sure.
But before we go,
even though it's on the 4th floor and it's a walk-up, right?
Yeah, we get a lot of exercise.
My morning exercise. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And before we go, we always end our show with a quote. Every day we have a different quote. So Carl Sagan, the universe, he studied the universe. And today we leave the show with his quote. He says, "For small creatures such as we, the vastness is bearable only through love." So he was talking about the universe, and he said in one of his books, Cosmos, the famous book Cosmos, he brings this topic saying, the universe is so large and we're so small, so interpersonal communication, love that's what makes it bearable. Otherwise, we're nothing in this universe.
I agree 100%.
We have to work together, isn't it? Dr. Ruth, thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you so much.
And best wishes in Nepal as you spend some time here.
Yes.
Do enjoy Nepal for what it has to offer, and also please, continue to help Nepal and give us suggestions.
Okay, thank you so much.
And thank you very much. Namaste.
Namaste.
हाम्रो अतिथिलाई हाम्रो बिदा गर्छौँ यसलाई र हाम्रो सो पनि यसलाई यहाँ रोक्छ र भोलि बिदा छ आइतबार, तर पर्सि सोमबार हामी फेरि दिस मर्निङ लाइभ लिएर आउने नै छौँ। हामीलाई हेर्दै गर्नु होला। Have a good day. Bye-bye.
This Morning Live, brought to you by Lifebuoy,
संसार के नंबर 1 सेलिंग जर्म प्रोटेक्शन सोप ब्रांड,
associate sponsor
एभरेस्ट बैंक, दिगो, दरिलो र विश्वासिलो,
पेप्सोडेन्ट, एउटा मुस्कानले